Well, welcome to Monday. Hey, look, dinner. Hello, and welcome to the Collapse Experiment, where I discuss the current state of the collapse while drinking my coffee, while we still have coffee. Because declining coffee harvest is a thing now. Yay. I'm starting to think that the real red pill, if you will, for the majority of society, at least in the US, won't come in the form of food no longer being on the shelves at the local supermarket. It'll be when you roll up to your local Starbucks and they say, sorry, we are currently out of any coffee. That'll be the moment that it hits people, unfortunately, because that is where we are at in society these days. Surely you can just roll up to a Starbucks and get a coffee. If you can do that, everything's fine. So it is Monday. The war is rolling on, as most people in politics seem to want. There was also this announcement recently where it was stated that they were rolling out a new economic system that has never been tried before, which is hilarious because for the last 20 years they've been trying a new economic system that has never been tried before. And it's not working. We had something good beforehand. And what's even more hilarious is Russia's going back to the original system that kept nations stable. But hey, if you have a country that's running on fiat currency, how do you run a war if you just can't keep printing money to fund it? Like how would you do that? Well, if we don't have any gold in Fort Knox, conspiracy theory here, I believe there's no gold in Fort Knox. None. I think it's all bullshit. See, a couple years ago, countries like Germany wanted their gold back. For some reason, the US was holding on to the gold of different nations. A lot of it was stored in Fort Knox. They had their own little section. That was the gold for Germany. This is the gold for France, for example. And after 2008, a bunch of countries were like, yeah, that stuff that you're holding on for us, we'd like that back. And honestly, I don't remember whether or not Germany got their gold. I'm assuming because nothing bad has happened in the last couple years between the U.S. and Germany, that they probably got what they asked for. But I remember even then, there was the big question of, is the gold even there? Why would people be asking that? Oh, so recently Russia decided that their currency is now backed by gold. And this has been a long time coming because for over 10 years now, not only Russia, but China as well, has been buying every piece of gold and silver that they can get their grubby little hands on. And there's only one reason why a country would do that. You're trying to remain financially stable, and odds are you're going to back your currency with this product that every country except for ours seems to respect more than what some would call fiat currency. So, Russia's been at this for a while now. They now have enough gold that they can back their currency with it. They decided to do that. And then they decided that, hey, this other garbage money that you're trying to use to buy our oil and gas, yeah, we're no longer taking that. By the way, you're going to use our banks too, because these sanctions, yeah, we don't agree with that either. And you know what? Good for them, because Russia is a sovereign nation. I mean, this seems to be the leading argument that the U.S. has whenever we go into a country is well, we need to overthrow their dictatorship because they're a sovereign nation that freely elected a dictator that we didn't agree with. And that doesn't fit our definition of sovereign. How dare they choose that path for their country? So, what if the other guy was diddling children or stealing money or doing all kinds of other horrible stuff? We're not going to put up with this other guy that was freely elected. No. Oh, so after World War II, short history lesson here, there was the Bretton Woods agreements where the US dollar would become the world reserve currency that you could trust and back your country and your company's financial future with the US dollar, that it would never lose its value. And then it seemed like the US did everything in its power to make sure that the dollar just became toilet paper. You know, there was the loss, the there was the repeal of a lot of laws that were based on Bretton Woods agreements, like Glass-Steagall. The whole point of that was to make sure that pension funds and retirement funds were secure and companies couldn't invest these bank accounts, this money that's set aside for retirement, so that money was set aside as part of the agreement between the employee and the employer, right? And then these companies were like, well, if we can get a better return in the stock market, I mean, who cares if it's a freaking casino? And we can always skim money off the top. It's awesome. And the pension people, they still get their money. Yeah, that worked out great, getting rid of that law. So most companies don't have pensions anymore. And the whole point of the pension program was to get people off of Social Security. That's not happening. Yeah, so you have companies who talk these senators and these congressmen into repealing a law so that the companies can just gamble with people's pensions, money they set aside, if states and local governments aren't stealing it from their own employees. Yeah, that's always fun. So you have Glass-Steagall, you've got a bunch of other finance laws, Wall Street, ton of shit with Wall Street that was deregulated. Basically, everything you could possibly do to kill the dollar, they did. And the biggest one was taking us off the gold standard. And that was more Saudi Arabia holding the U.S. at ransom with oil. And so what did we do? We took our money off the gold standard, linked it to oil, which technically doesn't make it fiat currency. But when it loses that credibility of being linked to all trade with oil, the dollar has no value. And there's a good possibility that whatever gold that we had, anything of any value that this country had, has already been sold off. It's gone. The people that have been running this country have been selling off everything. I mean, hell, our own national security is dependent upon Google right now. All the information that the NSA, that the federal government, that the FBI, everything that they collect that's digitized is contracted to Google. And that is something we should all be really concerned about. A private company is in charge of our nation's information. Not cool. So now we have a currency which, under no circumstances would we be able to link back to gold and silver. You're not going to see any gold and silver notes like you did 50 years ago. Nothing like that is going to be printed because, quite frankly, the federal government doesn't have any. So if we can't link it back to something else, it's no longer linked to oil. We keep printing money in order to pay off debts and to pay off the new programs that we keep trying to fund, which is freaking awesome. Shit we don't need. It all goes back to Fight Club. The federal government is trying to buy shit to impress people that don't like them with money they don't have. In what world does this make any sense? So we have this currency that is absolutely worthless. Now they're talking about making a digital currency, which means that they can print off as much as they want, devalue whatever ones and zeros are in your bank account. They can close off your bank account if you say or do anything the party doesn't like. Yeah, because I never read that book. That wasn't required reading or anything. So if the US dollar, and they keep claiming this, is still linked to oil, which is energy. If the dollar is linked to energy, and they're now talking about an energy shortage, issues with energy supply. If it's linked to this thing that is in short supply and nobody can really get it anymore, what power does the dollar have? Because it doesn't matter how many dollars you have, if the energy is not there to purchase, the dollar is gone. I would say I'm probably going to get some hateful comments about this video, but considering that nobody really watches my videos, like and subscribe and share this with your friends. Yeah, if I was to say this type of stuff on like Twitter, I'd have a bunch of trolls who bought in the GameStop or Bitcoin or the thing with the dog. Would be like, dude, you don't know what you're talking about. The dollar's awesome. Yeah, I go to the strip club all the time. That'll be another red pill moment. Some douchebag goes into a strip club and tries to hand a paperback currency to a stripper, and she's just like, nah, no, I can't do any, no. Do you have anything shiny? You know, things will get really bad when you can get a lap dance for a meal. Actually, that'd be pretty funny. So I guess this whole thing goes back to what I was talking about in my last video, which is this is the one thing that nobody's talking about, is that even the Federal Reserve is refusing to raise interest rates. Because that would pretty much mean the death of the federal government. If they raise interest rates at all, there's no way we could even pay the interest on that $30 trillion that they racked up over the years. Funny. And so they keep printing off money, which is causing inflation. The only way to fight inflation is to raise interest rates. Can't raise interest rates because if you do that, the same government that backs the currency that you're printing ceases to exist. And I have to wonder, is that necessarily a bad thing? Like all of a sudden there's no federal government? Oh no. What are we gonna do without the wisdom of Mitch McConnell and AOC? How will we ever survive without their bickering and passing laws that we don't want and not passing laws that we do want? And My God, the best stimulus check that anyone could get right now is not paying taxes to the federal government. If you wanted to boost the economy, if you wanted a fully functional society, if you wanted people to have more jobs, as they said in oh man, what was that movie with Brad Pitt? War something. Oh man, it's not Netflix. Jobs. We're gonna bring you jobs. Yeah, if you wanted people to have more jobs, just take away the federal taxes. And why is it, if you collect Social Security, if you collect unemployment, if you collect disability, all money that's collected by taxes, it's money that's been taxed. And they tax it as income. How? How does this make any sense? I mean, if you can't have double jeopardy, if you can't go on trial for the same crime twice, right? You're found innocent, and they can't try you again to try to get a guilty verdict, right? OJ, right? Everybody's familiar with OJ. And how is it that they can tax the same dollar twice? It makes no sense. But that's where we're at. They keep printing money. They're collecting tax. If they can print money, why do they collect taxes? Inflation is the invisible tax that is not signed into law by Congress. Literally not signed into law, because Congress is supposed to be, according to the Constitution, the group that says, hey, we're going to print more money. And this is supposed to help regulate things like inflation, right? Then they created the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve is just like, tell us when to press the button. And so Congress no longer has that power. And in doing that, they just left the machine on, which devalues your money, while they're also still trying to tax and take your money. So it's another double whammy. They're taxing you through inflation, the unseen tax. Then there's a tax on April 14th or 15th or whatever freaking day it is. April 15th, right? It's tax day. Then they tax you again. Unless you run a business, then it's every quarter. And depending on which state you're in, they might want their sales tax every month. Who knows? But yeah, it's a horrible system that we have here. And they're talking about a new financial system. They've been trying a new financial system. They can't get that shit straight. They refuse to go back to the old financial system, which was fine. It was fine. There was nothing wrong with it other than Saudi Arabia had us by the balls because of oil. Yeah, but you want to get off oil, right? I mean, that's your whole purpose, right? That's what you're pushing for. You shut down all the pipelines and all the drilling, and you're saying we're going to go to zero fossil fuels by some ridiculous date. So if you're not having your money backed by oil anymore, which I'm assuming is the plan, is to not have a oil-backed currency, why not go back to gold? Okay, I'm speaking to a group of people who can't balance a checkbook. AOC can't even pay off her student loan debt while she makes $170,000 plus a year. Yeah, these are financial idiots. Hell, I worked as a janitor most of my life, and I'm technically doing better than them, which is weird. How does this guy have no debt? At this point, it's probably just a waste of time to even explain it to these assholes. Piece of advice for today. If you go to a financial advisor or you go to have your taxes done, and the person sitting behind the desk says anything relating to debt is good, immediately get up and walk out of the room. Because this person does not know what they're talking about. anytime somebody in a financial situation tries to tell you that having debt is a good thing, leave. It's really that simple. If they're not promoting saving money, if they're not promoting investing it in something tangible, it's amazing the amount of professional financial experts in various fields, whether it's mortgage lenders, bankers, stockbrokers. It's amazing how many of these people are like, oh, that is awesome. Especially when they say stupid shit like, but you get the tax break from the interest that you pay on your house. I've never seen a situation where the tax break that you got from owing on your house paid for the interest that you paid on the house. As a matter of fact, I believe that's for rich people because I never fucking qualified for that tax break. You have to have something that's like 150,000 or more for that to even be mentioned in your fucking taxes. I put in, yes, I'm a homeowner. Yes, I paid interest on my home. And then I put all the every year I put all the information in, spend 5-10 minutes plugging all this shit into the computer, and then they're like, yeah, sorry, you don't qualify. Let's move on. So yeah, anytime you meet any of these dumbasses, they're overpaid for what they do, and they probably have more debt than you. So that's it. That's my rant. Went a little long today. How are you doing? Keep on typing.